it's a winter story. So Tom's going to play some music, so you can listen to the music and listen to the story. And I want you to do the same as I do with my hands, unless I go like that. That just means I've got an itchy nose. Now Nils lived in a house. You should be doing it with me. He lived in a house, and he lived there with not just his father, but his two brothers. And every day when the sun would shine, he'd have to wash the windows. You're very good at this. He had to wash the windows, he would have to sweep the floor, he had to cook the food. And one day he realised his father and his brothers never said please, so good, never said please, and never said thank you. And now he looked, and high in the air he could see the snow coming down, and he had had enough. Because when his brothers came into the house, they dragged the snow inside of the house, and they never said, please, do that with me, they never said, please, and they never said, thank you. You are very good. And he had had enough. That's a good one for teachers, by the way. He had had enough. And he said to himself, I'm going to go away from my home. And he started, and he jumped up, and he started to run. Do it. And he ran, and he ran, and he ran, and he ran. And as he ran through all the trees, all he could think of was his father and his brothers never saying please or thank you. And still he ran. And the snow was deep and dark on the ground, and the moon hung in the sky like a great silver coin, and he stopped. And as he looked about him, he thought, I know all of these forests, all of these trees. You should be doing it with me. And he was there, and he looked about him, and he didn't recognise anything. And as he looked about him, in between the trees, the bare trees, he could see eyes. He could see pads and paws and claws as they were crunching upon the hard ice. And he was frightened. Show me how frightened he was. He was frightened. He was frightened. And I'll tell you this, in the middle of all of this, he listened, and it was so quiet, and in the darkness, and with the snow about him, he heard an old man scream. You jumped about 2 foot in the air. Now usually I keep my eyes closed when I do that shouting, but this time I looked, and it was like all of you went like this. And there was an old man, and he screamed. It was louder than that, and he screamed. Now I'll tell you this, Nils looked about him, and he might have been frightened, but he could tell that the old man was in danger. And as he looked, in amongst all of the trees, he saw that there was a small hill. And on top of the hill, underneath the snow, there stood an old man. Do that with me, an old man. And he was standing there. His arms were stiff by his side. His back was hard and heavy, because all around him he could see that there were wolves. Wolves with long fangs and sharp claws. And they were inching closer and closer and closer. I love it, not a flicker. And do you know something? It got closer and closer, and the chiefest of all of those wolves pulled himself back upon his hind legs. Do it now. And he sprang in the air, and Nils did not wait for a wink or a blink. Everybody, did not wait for a wink or a blink. I haven't done it yet. Didn't wait for a wink or a blink. He took an arrow from behind his back, a bow. Do this with me. And on a bow-bent arrow string, he let the arrow fly through the air, and it struck the chief of the wolves in its neck, and it fell down dead. Its blood was on the snow, and he looked all about him, and the old man was there. And now the second strongest of all of the wolves came closer, and closer, and closer. Nothing. I've got to tell you something. He came closer and closer, and he took an arrow from behind his back. Do it. And on a bow-bent arrow string, he let it fly through the air, and it struck that wolf deep in its heart, and it fell down dead upon the ground. Now, wolves are like bullies. when there are 24 of them and one old man, they feel very brave and strong. But now that the chief and the second strongest were gone, they dragged their bodies away from that place, and they would not eat the old man that night. They would feast upon the chief of the wolves. And when they had gone, the old man said, "Young man." What did he say? He said, "Young man." You do that so well. "Young man, come here." And Nils went and stood beside the old man. Now the old man's shoulders were rested and by his side, but he could see that he had a long white beard upon his chin. Can you do that with me? A long white beard upon his chin, hair over his shoulders, a black cloak upon his back. And the old man smiled and said, "Young man." What did he say? "Young man." "What do you want as a reward, as a present, for saving me from all of these wolves?" Nils looked and he said, "I am cold." Well done at the back. "I am cold. I am hungry. I need to rest. I am tired and far away from my home. Please let me sleep inside of your house and eat." And the old man smiled and said, "I would give that to anyone. You must come and eat in my house this night, and then we shall see what you want." Well, the snow was in the sky. You should be doing this with me. The snow was in the sky, deep and crisp and even upon the ground. And as he went further and further, he got to the old man's house. And he sat down by the side of a blazing fire. And he felt so happy as he sat there. And he ate. And he drank. And he felt so rested and so calmed after being so frightened. And he looked and he thought to himself, "Now I would wish to rest." And that night he lay down on a bed that was covered with animal skins. And the next morning he could tell it was still the winter time, for he could see his breath. But in that place between sleeping and waking and dreaming, a shadow passed over his eyes. Now as he looked, he saw not the old man, but a beautiful woman. Show me your beautiful faces. A beautiful woman. Yeah, a beautiful woman. And she was there. She had her long, thin, white fingers together. She looked at him and said, "Kind stranger, you have helped my father, and my father is a magician." Can you make magic with this? "My father is a magician, and he can offer you many things. He will offer you gold, but you must say no." Do that with me. You must say no. "He will offer you a river of silver, but you must say no. He will offer you so many diamonds that they would burst your pockets, but you must say no. What you must ask for, what you must ask him for, is the old grey horse." Nils was lying there. "I could have gold or silver or diamonds, and I must ask for a horse." And as he rubbed his eyes, he was about to ask this woman again, and when he looked, he saw that she was gone, and standing there was the old man. He looked, he smiled. Go on, pretend you're that old man. He looked and he said, "You have saved my life. Now I will offer you a reward. Would you like to have gold?" And Nils said, "No." "Then you must want a river of silver." Put your little fingers together. It's an S and it shines. That's a sign for silver. And Nils said, "No." You're very good. "In that case, I shall give you diamonds." Put a diamond ring on the back of your hand like this. "I shall give you diamonds that would burst your fingers." But Nils said, "No." You're very good. "What I want to have is the old grey horse. The horse that you keep at the back of the house." The old man smiled. He looked and he said, "So you want the horse, do you? I think someone has helped you, and I think it was my daughter. But you saved my life, I shall give you the old grey horse, but I shall also give you a saddle and a bridle, so that you can ride upon the horse. Do that with me. So that you can ride upon the horse. And I will give you a guitar, and I shall give you a violin that you can play. Nils looked. A horse, a saddle, a guitar, and a fiddle. How could he ask for anything more? But the old man looked at him and said, "Listen!" What did he say? He said, "Listen! You must only play them when you feel as if you're going to die." That's another good one for teachers. If you feel as if you're going to die. Nils got on top of the horse. The saddle, the bridle, the guitar at his side, and the fiddle and a pack and a sack at his back. And as he walked along, he thought to himself, I wonder, I could give this horse to my father. I could give the guitar to my brother. I could give the violin to my other brother. And here the horse stopped. Do that with me. Here the horse stopped. It turned its head. It looked towards him. And it said, in the sweetest voice you ever could imagine, it said, "Oh no, don't give me to your father. Don't give the guitar to your brother or the violin to your other brother. You must ride until you come to where there is a castle." Can you draw that castle in the air with me? The castle that is white and wide, with great golden gates at its front, and inside there is a king. Make a king like this. Inside there is a king. And he will want to buy me, but you must say no. And then the horse started to ride on. I'll tell you something. Nils was very surprised that the horse could talk, but he always did as he was told, and the horse rode on, and it went to the right, and to the right, and to the right, and to the right, and still with the snow falling in the air. Do that with me. Still with the snow falling in the air, he came to the castle, and outside of the castle there was a soldier. He was tall. He was proud. He looked and he said, "Go away!" What did he say? Go away! The king does not want to see the likes of you, musicians who travel by the light of the moon and snow that falls. Go away! Go away! You're very good. And here the horse raised its head and said, "But I think your majesty, your king, would like to see me." "A talking horse!" said the soldier. Do that with me. "A talking horse!" The king will want to see this. The soldier dropped his sword upon the ground and started to run. And he went up the stairs and he went to where the king lay sleeping, fast asleep, a deep winter's sleep. And he took the king, do it, and he shook him, and he said, "Your Majesty, Your Majesty! Your Majesty, Your Majesty! Outside there is a talking horse! Outside there is a talking horse!" And the king was lying there going, "Will you stop shaking me? There better had be a talking horse, otherwise I shall kill you." Do that with me, ready? I shall chop off your head. The soldier said, "It is a talking horse. I've heard it and seen it." The king got himself dressed. Show me. Raise those shoulders. He got himself dressed. He went down the stairs and he stood at the doorway to the great castle and said, "Now, horse, talk to me." And the horse raised its head and it said nothing. The king was looking at the soldier. Do it. And he went, "Now, horse, talk to me." Ready? And the horse raised its head. And the horse said nothing. Ready? The king went. That's really rough. The soldier's going, "Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please." McCONVILLE.